When the plant's starting to go south, it's starting to wilt and not look great. You don't look at the plant and say, what's wrong with the plant? You look at the sunlight, and it's the environment, right? It's the nutrients in the soil. How much water is it getting? How much sunlight, all that good stuff. And then you fix those things and then the plant gets better. So it sounds like that's the approach that you recommend for treating this condition as well.
Absolutely. It's the same. Yeah. Plants like require our care, if
Yeah.
you're trying to cultivate them like in your backyard. It's the same as kids.
You've tried everything. You've changed your diet, you've detoxed, you've even moved homes, and yet you still feel sick. Headaches, brain fog, fatigue that no one can explain. What if it's not you? What if it's your environment? Welcome to Mold, Mycotoxins, and More. I'm John Bodie. Each week, I sit down with experts uncovering how mold, mycotoxins, and environmental exposures affect your health and what real recovery looks like. Let's get into today's conversation. The information provided on the Mold Pros podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listening to the podcast does not create a doctor-patient or professional-client relationship between you and the podcast host, guest, or the Mold Pros. The content shared should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. And always seek the medical advice of your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, potential mold exposure, or health concerns. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you heard on this podcast. And while we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we make no representations or warranties of any kind, express or implied, about the completeness, accuracy, reliability, or suitability of all the information discussed. And guest experience and outcomes discussed on this podcast are individual cases and should not be considered typical results. Your situation may differ significantly. As always, if you think you have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. By listening to the Mold Pros podcast, you acknowledge that you understood this disclosure. Good afternoon. This is John Bodie, host of Mold, Mycotoxins, and More. And today we're excited to have with us Andra McHugh, and she is the host of the podcast Eczema Kids. You're welcome to
Thank
Mold,
you.
Mycotoxins, and More.
Thanks, John. I'm really excited to be here.
Fantastic. I listened to several of your podcasts earlier and just really great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I noticed that where you indicated that you're kind of a reluctant podcast hoster. You said, "Hey, I wish I'd be doing other things, but here we are." So, share with us a little bit. How did you come to start Eczema Kids? What's been your journey?
Sure. Yeah, I would love to not be an eczema expert, but that's just like the cards that were in store for us because 6 years ago, I had just had my third daughter, and she was basically born with eczema. She was born with this neonatal rash they wrote in her discharge papers, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And then simultaneously, my 2-year-old, she had this little rash on the inside of her thigh, and then it just started growing, 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 growing. And then I had 2 kids completely covered head to toe, skin falling
Oh
off,
my.
oozing kind of eczema, like not sleeping one little bit. And it just took us on a journey. We went to the we went to the pediatrician, as one does when you have sick kids. And, I had zero history with this, growing up or anything like that. My husband didn't have any history with this. And yeah, we went to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician just was like, this is so bad. You're going to need 2 steroid prescriptions for both of them. Put gloves on yourself before you administer any of these medications because they're admittedly very toxic. And you're just going to have to manage this, unfortunately. And I was like, that's just not going to work. I was holding
Yeah.
my newborn baby. She was a month old, and I was holding the hand of my 2-year-old. I was like, that just can't be. That can't be the answer. So I took the prescription, and I just kept it in my back pocket, and I knew I had to find another way. And so, yeah, it was by force that I had to learn all these things and go on this journey. And now I help other people learn the same because, oh my goodness, this is such a ubiquitous problem. This is so, so big in our current pediatric population. And then even with adults that never resolved it in childhood, and they're still suffering. So that's why I do what I do.
Very good. Well, I hate to we don't want to gloss over this, but the standard of care was to apply a steroid to your newborn's skin that you couldn't have it touch your skin. You had to put on gloves because it was so caustic.
Yes, I know. Isn't that sad? He said also throw in a couple capfuls of bleach into their bath. I know, it's just suppress and kill is what they have, as tools in allopathic medicine, and, you know, and then there's also, like, scratch tests, which just exacerbate the problem a lot of times, and then the dermatologists really say the same thing, and so, yeah, it's really, really it's really sad, and I just didn't want my kids to be reliant on anything, but especially pharmaceuticals that I knew had pretty deleterious side effects, and so, yeah, I just didn't wanna go that route.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. So you went down this path to your kids, and obviously you've had great results, and so you're trying to share that with other parents who are going through the same thing. What hopes are you trying, or what is your hope to make an impact in the way that we treat our children with this type of condition?
I just want everyone to know. I mean, there's so many, you hear all these like preventative things, and especially us as parents, it's like, oh, dang, I wish you could have done all this. But now we're here and now, and we're in this problem, and we're not sleeping, and our children are miserable. I just want everyone to know that this is 100% reversible. And what's great about, tackling this when they're kids, even when they're older kids, in their teens, it's just they still have, the most of their life ahead of them. And their cellular turnover is so quick that, like, they just regenerate cells so quickly, and once you start, bringing down the inflammation, and you start making each, round of cells just a little plumper, a little healthier, a little more, like increase the health of that mitochondria, you can see results so quickly, and it just changes the entire trajectory of their lives, and so, yeah, it's that's the silver lining. S
Yeah, when someone gets that diagnosis for their children, I mean, that's a heavy diagnosis to have, but I think you touched on something that's really important. It's not just that, it's if you can imagine having that condition and as you age, it's your social interaction. And then as a parent, the weight of trying to get your child on their path to wellness. Can you talk a little bit about some of those additional rings, if you will, of that occur when someone has eczema?
Sure, like the bigger effects.
Yeah, yeah, it's not just the fact that we have this quote unquote skin condition, right? It's much bigger than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much bigger than that. I mean, like, as you said, this is when you're not sleeping and you're going through it, and your kid is itchy, and you can't, like, set your baby on the floor because 'cause they're just scratching themselves to death, like, that's a problem, and that's real suffering, and there's certainly worse things, right? There's childhood cancer, and there's things like that that are just, like, even scarier, diabetes, and but what, scared me when I was researching and treating my own kids, is like, that's just not too far away. Eczema is an autoimmune conditioning. And so it has to be, dealt with. It has to be considered really serious. And, even just like a little bit is just showing you, oh man, there's something bigger going on inside. And so if you leave that unchecked, if you, go with the hope and a prayer methodology, just like, hopefully this will get better, hopefully they grow out of it. That's tossed around a lot in a lot of pediatricians' offices. Is like, when you don't deal with that inflammation, it just triggers, I mean, it either molds into something else, like asthma or hay fever. That's the atopic triad, and
Mhm.
Western medicine, definitely acknowledges that. But or it I read The GAPS Diet by Dr. Natasha Campbell when I was researching and trying to teach me or treat my kids, and, she put eczema and autism on this same path, on the same, like, line, like, that inflammation is happening inside the body, and there's a dysbiosis happening inside the body, and it can just manifest in different ways. That inflammation can, like, start to mess up your brain. It can start to mess up all your other organ systems. And so that's what was scarier than even what we were actually dealing with. It's just like, okay, if I leave this unchecked, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And so we gotta deal with this now.
Yeah, that's, getting we work with a lot of functional medicine practitioners, and the thing I admire about that approach is really getting to the root cause, right? I think I heard on one of your podcasts, you had the quote that essentially eczema is not a skin condition, it's a message from your body, and that certainly sounds like that's the case. What type of conditions have you been able to identify? Is it food intake? Is it environmental? Is it all the above? Is it genetics? What have you come to learn? You've cleaned, repainted, and replaced filters, and still, you're not getting better. Headache, fatigue, brain fog, the doctors can't explain it, but your environment can. At the Mold Pros, we specialize in uncovering what's hidden in plain sight. Our environmental testing looks beyond surface mold, identifying bacteria, volatile organic compounds, and even mycotoxins in the air that you breathe. Then we correlate those results with your clinical data, showing how your space may be affecting your health. Next, we use our patented remediation process to safely remove toxins, restore balance, and prevent them from returning. It's more than just a cleanup. It's a science-based system designed to help your body heal by healing the environment first. If you're ready to breathe freely again, visit themoldpros.com and schedule your free consultation. Because wellness doesn't start in the doctor's office. It starts where you live.
Yeah, I mean, we know that, like, as you just said, that it's not a skin condition. There's a dysbiosis happening, and they're little, if it's a child, their livers are overwhelmed. Their inflammation buckets are full. And so no matter the reason, and some of my just training as a parent is like I had to let go of that why. Like I had cesareans, I've had 4 cesareans. I used to work in the dental industry. There's been a lot of exposures. There's been a lot of things that I wish, I had done differently, but their their bucket is full, right? So like our job now is to decrease the amount of inflammatory assailants that are coming at them 24/7, be that via food, be that their environment. EMF is like a thing that we have to now deal with. There's just so many things. And thankfully, good news is we have control over a lot of them. A lot of them, way more than we think, especially when we're treating our children, right? Like you're buying the groceries, you're preparing the food, you're paying for the environment and you're cleaning that environment and there's so many things that are within your control, and if you just start to line those things up and start to get those inputs back into more of a healthy, more aligned circadian rhythm type of way, they will fare so much better.
Very good. So, as opposed to, I think you said initially it was bleach baths, which sounds just extremely awful, just terrible. And then it was this caustic steroidal topical treatment, it sounds like. Obviously, you've been able to come across a better path.
Mm.
And so can you share a little bit about what that looks like? And maybe do you have some stories of success where, hey, other than obviously your children, but others where they've been able to go down this path and find a road to wellness?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been doing this for 4 years, and I mean, everyone's gotten better. Every single person, because once you like do the things that we just spoke to, once we get the environment under control and we get the diet under control and we just like lower that systemic inflammation, everything gets better. The skin gets better, the sleep gets better, the behavior gets better. Like the allergies get better. Every
Uh-huh.
single thing gets better. And so that's what's so promising and exciting. But to get there, like we, as mere mortal parents, right? No matter who you're working with, you're the one that's doing it. You're implementing this, right? And you're in charge of the healing path, and it's your responsibility. So you start in the kitchen, right? Like you're at the next meal, and you're just ensuring that every meal is nutrient dense, comprised of whole in season foods, ideally prepared properly, like prepared for digestion. These kids aren't assimilating the nutrients from their food. They're not absorbing what they need to absorb. Like the whole reason that we eat, right, is for nutrients and to grow and thrive. And these kids aren't doing that. So we're we're soaking the beans and we're soaking the grains and we're using pressure cookers and we're pairing foods properly. We're not eating meats with fruits, like as an example, because the
Uh-huh.
digestive enzymes for those type of things are completely different, right? So if you eat those two things together, then some is left in your stomach and then it starts to ferment and it's increasing that systemic inflammation. So we start there. We start in the kitchen with some basic principles. Number one being real food.
Very good. So it's more of a, was it Hippocrates that said, let food be thy medicine. So you start there. is there any sort of testing or diagnosis, or is it that someone can say, "How could we have this?" They've been to their doctor. The doctors has prescribed these more traditional, standard of care treatments they typically get, kind of the canned approach. Is there any sort of testing, or what's the path for them to get on a different approach that's more holistic for their children, I guess?
Well, like you start with the diet, right? And
Right?
so then then we're I leave testing for last. And the majority of the people that I work with don't have to go there at all because it's expensive, right? And it's invasive. And for some kids it's pretty traumatic and it's hard. So I think anyone under 12 months old, they can't do any testing, and even stool tests, right, aren't made for them. So we just do the things that we can do inside our four walls, and that's a
Right.
lot. So you
Yeah.
do that, you make sure that everything that touches the skin is bioavailable, that's edible is basically our standard. Not that it would taste good if you ate it, but that anything that you put on your skin, it's absorbed in your body, it circulates throughout your body, and it's digested by your liver, just the same as anything that you would eat. So everything has to be of that standard, right? And then, you know, everything in your environment, like you do what you can to for mold. You open your windows, you purify your air, you, ideally get rid of carpet, things like that are just exacerbating your child's symptoms at this moment of time. And we supplement because there's going to be some key nutritional deficiencies that are happening for anyone that has eczema. There's certainly a dysbiosis going on. There's certainly a backup in their detox pathways. Like when we're seeing eczema-ridden skin, we're looking at those toxins coming out through the skin, right? They're not coming out through the proper detoxification channel. So we're opening that up. We're getting their lymph system moving and going, and through enough cycles of that, through consistency, that's when you start to see the change. And so when you've got all those things dialed in, those 4 sections for a period of time, a couple months, and then you're most definitely better, in a better place. But if it's not completely resolved, that's when we jump into testing. Because then, without a doubt, then there's some pathogenic bacterias or things like that are living inside that we have to eradicate, but we have to know what it is before we start to treat that.
Go down that path.
No.
It sounds like there's, I was talking with a practitioner that we do a lot of work for their patients. And they use the analogy of a plant. When the plant's starting to go south, it's starting to wilt and not look. You don't look at the plant and say what's wrong with the plant. You look at the sunlight. Then it's the environment, right? It's the nutrients in the soil. How much water is it getting? How much sunlight, all that good stuff. And then you fix those things, and then the plant gets better. So it
Mhm.
sounds like that's the approach that you recommend for treating this condition as well. Is
Absolutely. It's the same. Yeah. Plants like require our care, if
Yeah.
you're trying to cultivate them like in your backyard. It's the same as kids. Yeah.
Do you have, it's been 4 years you've been down this journey, and obviously you have the podcast with a lot of great information on your podcast, which is fantastic. Is there a website that people can go to? How can someone get more information or maybe get in contact with you to have a more natural, holistic approach that really gets to the root of the problem?
Yeah. So Eczema Kids is a site. You can listen to the most recent episode there. And I have a line of skincare and some prebiotic tea and some just extra tools and support to help you through this journey, help you treat the outside while you're remediating the inside, really. And then I have a coaching program called the Eczema Elimination Method, and that's when we walk you through all these things. We get a one-on-one coaching call and really create an in-depth plan for you to execute, and then we're talking along the way and making adjustments as needed, and we're just going through that protocol until your child is healed.
Okay, fantastic. So is there a website that we could direct folks to, or is there a
Yeah.
phone number? How do
Yeah.
they get in contact with you?
Eczemakids.com is where everything is.
All right. And for those that are, challenged with spelling as myself, it is going to be E
ECZ.
E
Go ahead.
Yeah, ECZEMA kids, KIDS.com.
Yes. Yes. Everything's there.
All right, perfect. Any other thoughts that or success stories you'd like to share uh, with our audience today?
I just want parents to know, even if you've gone down that steroid rabbit hole, or if you've been taking, biologics, or that's just on the table, it just doesn't have to be your child's permanent story, and it's okay. Whatever has happened in the past, like they can overcome it. They're very, very resilient. Our human bodies are meant to be resilient, and that's what we're doing, is like creating this resiliency so that they can handle life with ultimate food freedom and without pharmaceuticals. That's our goal. And no matter what situation you're in now, you can absolutely get there.
That's fantastic. One other thought in listening to what you have to say, we're talking about how resilient the kids are, but also as a parent, you have children, I have children. I think there's probably a certain amount of weight that as a parent you carry, right? When your child is suffering and you can't get them better, it's what did I do wrong? Or in the past, making these judgments or using these steroids and bleach baths and that kind of thing. You're making the best decision that you have with the information you have at the time. Does your website have any support for the parent as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, you're the one that's doing it, right? You're the one that's implementing. And so, one, we give you a plan and we give you the information so that so you understand the why. Why are you doing each of these things? We give you a rhythm, like we'll make it so that you can actually do it in your life, given the age and whatever is going on in your family. Like we can make this possible. I have 4 kids, run a business. I mean, everyone's really, really busy. And so,
Right.
yeah, it's got to be doable and consistent. And I think just it's stressful, right? It's stressful to watch your child be miserable and not really know how to pull them out of that well. And when we were really going through it, the best thing for my mental health was, because I was never going to be okay knowing my kids were not okay. Like I'm just not evolved enough to be there yet. So, but when I laid my head down on the pillow and I know that I did everything that was within my power, to help my kids, that is what kept me going. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
like I could not have done any more for them. And so that is what gave me solace, like during that time. And then as they started to improve, I mean, certainly then it becomes much more, self-fulfilling, but it just is that if you can just keep that little nugget, and if you're listening to these type of podcasts, you are the parent that is doing every single thing that you possibly can, and just, keep going. Like there's no other choice.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your personal journey, for investing and learning and be able to help others and make an impact on families. It's really important work that you're doing, and so glad to have carved out time and visit with you today. So thank you very much. Keep it going.
Thank you, John. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
You've been listening to Mold, Mycotoxins, and More with John Bodie. If you're ready to take the next step towards a healthier home, follow the show and visit themoldpros.com for your free consultation. Because clean air is the first step to true healing.